Okay, I'm going down to the basement here, the lower level where we have washrooms and various exhibits. A little montage we made for the fall fair. Grand Forks, 1900, 1896, 1905, 1958, 1915. A typical stake, as in mining, claim stake. There's a stake with a tag on it. The dollar was spent on the last claim that was made, registered at this office here. We used to have in here a parlor display, but in preparation for the move, we took that down, and this is the storage area for all the boxes. And you'll notice that every box has a list which says what the items in that box are. And the computer knows which box has what items to help us keep track of our collection. In this area here, under the stairs, we have storage. A beautiful piano, old records, photo albums, the Grand Forks Lodge of the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. Whoa. Lots of things, plus the records of the museum. Very many things in here. We tried to have a little video viewing area here. Unfortunately, with a teeny screen like that, it's kind of hard to see from a distance. Here we put together an organ from the church and a roulette wheel from gambling and a Sanctus bell from the Roman Catholic Church, because these things are all basically fighting over human beings' souls and spirits. Right? The church is trying to get you to come to God. And the gambling, well, that tries to get you to do other things. Now, that's a picture of Phoenix. Most of these are Phoenix photos. That's Phoenix up there. But this was the smelter that was here, the Granby Smelter. This model here. And I got to explain to kids and visitors a lot about how smelting worked, what the railroad meant to it. If there was no railroad, basically this couldn't exist. It took railroad to bring the coal in from places where there was coal. It took railroad to move the ore from Phoenix down to here. And it took railroad to move the slag out to the slag heaps, and it took railroad to move the copper out to the rest of the world. Without the railroad, this couldn't have happened. More displays here to do with the mining. My favorite display of all, the old store. And the reason this is my favorite display is because I could really connect people to the past in this area, because a lot of things like ivory soap, sunlight soap, blue ribbon coffee, they still can buy those things in the stores. But there's other things here that maybe their parents used or that their grandparents used that they remember. I like these museums, this type of era, because people can really relate to them. I mean, if you go to Europe and you see the Colosseum and you see all those old things that are thousands of years old, you don't know anybody who has lived in those times, and you don't know anybody who knows anybody who's lived in those times. We can only guess as to what life was really like in those times, but this is not that far in the past. And there are people who, I mean, I grew up with some of these things, right? A wringer washer. We had an electric one, but we did have a wringer washer. We had an ice box on the farm. I remember that. I mean, that was great. I got to teach kids about, the progression of technology from washing machines, because I would start with this thing which looks like a plunger down here, and washboards, move on to that thing there, and then move on to the vacuum cleaner and the ice box, and explain to them, where do you get ice when we can't freeze things? Well, a lot of people didn't figure that out. And then a lot of things within this thing here, pointing out that the progression of those irons, from the sat iron that sits right on the stove with a handle attached to the ones with the detachable handles, to the one with its own gas, to the electric. And pointing out to people that the first thing that was electrified in most people's houses was the light bulb. Therefore, most of the early appliances did not have a two-prong plug, because there was no standard for that. They would actually have a socket that they could plug into a light socket. You could plug into a light socket. And why is our beautiful casustered brass sides so beautiful like that, and lots of them are plain Jane? Because they came around during the war and they said, we need your brass sides to make cartridge casings from. Yes, indeed. Now, we used to have a Duca board display in here, and all that's left of it is the actual model of the Ozerov village, and the paintings on the walls, and this feed grinder. Most of the rest has been removed. for safekeeping to go with the Hardy Mountain Doukhobor Village Museum. Moving right along. This woodwork is from a display case that was stored in the old welder building, which is now Sears, and we had to get it out of there before they moved in. This was our work area, basically. This is the office, and in these file cabinets here we have artifacts, archival. This is photos, archival photos. I could have sworn there was another file cabinet here. Why do I feel like there's a file cabinet missing? And that's not true. Okay, so yeah, so we had the photos in there, worked in here. Behind these things we had Doukhobor artifacts that had to be stored safely away from the weather and the elements and such things. And then here we have a storage area, another storage area full of artifacts, packed artifacts. Yes, indeed. Lots and lots of things go into a museum. Lots and lots of things. And unfortunately, a lot of these things never see the light of day, because it really costs money, time, effort, labor, etc. to change displays often, so it doesn't get done. As a result, a lot of things just never get seen. That's too bad, but that's just the realities of a small museum. This messy place, well, that's my place. Oh, I almost forgot my little computer guy. Okay, so moving right along. This is our conservation and workspace. Now, our new digs across the street, there is no conservation and work area. There's no extra storage area. All we have is display area. That's it. Our kitchen area. Apparently the new museum will have a really nice kitchen. What can I say? Old sign. Paint and chemical storage cabinet. I'm just getting a bit maudlin here. I gotta leave this alone. I'm gonna cut this off. We'll go up to the archives next time.